Tune into Black Cyber, the number one podcast to jumpstart, sustain, and catapult African Americans' career in cybersecurity. Black Cyber, securing our place in the industry.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Black Cyber Podcast. I'm your host, George McPherson. Today, I got some exciting news. We're going to have none other than Cybery's very own master instructor, Ken Underhill, on the show coming up soon. Some of you may remember where I was on Ken's podcast, The Cyber Life. Let's do a flashback to that full episode now.
Welcome to the Cyber Life Podcast. Remember, if you like this podcast, don't forget to subscribe, download, rate 5 stars, of course, and share this podcast with everyone you know. Hey everyone, welcome to the Cyber Life Podcast. My name is Ken Underhill, your host, and I'm here with George McPherson, who's got a whole lot of certifications. I've been reviewing his LinkedIn profile again. George is a really good guy. He's helping out at Cybery as well as doing his full-time job and helping the industry a lot. And I know many people you've interacted with on LinkedIn, and I've seen a lot of your posts and stuff like that to try to give back information. And obviously anybody can go look up your LinkedIn profile, but do you just mind kind of giving us your background? Like, how did you actually get into security and even IT in general? Like, what kind of got you started going down that path, George?
Gotcha. Thank you, Ken. And first of all, thank you for having me on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got started in IT security. Let's back up. I started in the U.S. Army in the Signal Corps. That translates to telecom in the civilian world. Got out, was working for the phone company, was doing structured cable, Cat 3, Cat 5 data cable voice. Did that for about 14 years, so I have a technology background. Kind of got tired of climbing ladders and climbing under houses. Then kind of hit a plateau. The money started off good, kind of hit a plateau. So I just wanted to take my career to the next level. So started with a Tech Certification Institute.
Okay.
Good name, but I don't want to mention it here.
Sure.
Just in case. It was kind of like a class where you did certifications. Took the Network Plus, A Plus, CCNA. The first certification I actually certified on was the Network Plus. And with me, I was trying to be really strategic with it as far as getting into the IT, hitting the ground running. With Network Plus, it kind of aligned to what I used to do, the telecom side.
Okay.
So I thought it was kind of like a, low-lying fruit, just kind of knocked that out real quick. I studied a little bit, was lucky to pass that on the first try. Got my first IT job probably a couple months later, was doing desktop support. And what advice I'll give people on that is what I did when I got started entry level. I wasn't a fan of the A plus or, I knew I wanted to go in the networking side or mainly cybersecurity, but I wanted to be good at what I did when I got into the industry. So I actually started studying for the A plus. So like if I'm doing it, I need to study it.
Right.
What I found when I was studying for the A plus certification is what I would study, I would go to work and I would apply that to my job. And at work, vice versa. Basically, when I find a problem or something I was struggling with, I would go study and that same topic would pop up and I would have the solution and take it back to work. Got my A plus, and I knew I wanted to go into cybersecurity. So immediately I self-studied, found the material, got on the CompTIA website and self-studied for the Security Plus. And I actually interviewed at a company I was working with at the time where I was doing Windows 7 upgrades. Interviewed with the company. And you interviewed for IT security entry-level position. Initially, what I'll say about that is, initially I got turned down in the system. So I definitely want to mention this as never give up on your dreams. Initially, I got turned down in the system. I saw it the job kind of say declined in the system.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a good interview for, me being new to the industry. The manager actually did reach out to me. I actually left that company and was starting another contracting job. And I just happened to check my work email, like the web email. And she had sent me an email. My future manager had sent me an email and said, I don't know if you're still interested in this position. I happened to log in. I don't know if you're still interested in the position, but I want you to come in for a second interview. Long story short, I came in for a second interview, met with the CISO, met with the manager again, and I actually got the job. So that's how I kind of started my career in cybersecurity.
Nice. So with that, was that more of the fact that you like kind of networked with that person, kind of already, shown like your skill set, and that's what probably got that conversation started? Or was it more of they maybe other candidates didn't work out and they brought you in? Do you know? Did you get that first role?
I actually do have some insight into that. When I met with the CISO, he actually told me, he said it was a guy that was way more experienced, had been in the industry. He said he liked my work ethic. He liked the military background. He was in the military as well. I think what they saw in me is potential. So he definitely, made that known to me that they saw the potential and saw that the other guy wasn't a good fit. I showed in the interview that I was a team player, that I could learn fast, that I had, a common sense towards the industry, making the right decisions. With the right knowledge, I could grow from there. So I think that's really what, and sometimes you don't hear that too often. I mean, Ken, me and you know how it is in cybersecurity. It's really competitive. Sometimes you don't get that chance to outprove a person that clearly has more experience than you. So that was definitely a blessing to get in the industry that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of like you're saying and alluding to there, you definitely have to take those chances when they come. Like, don't, like had you, potentially said, you know what, I don't want to do that. Or, oh, you guys kind of snubbed me the first time around, I don't care about you. You wouldn't have gotten that opportunity necessarily. And who knows where your career might've been. So that's, so I think you've given some good advice so far. Number one, never give up on your dreams. Then also, alluding to the fact of, you just can't, you just have to do it the right way, right? Like you were open to them coming back to you and saying, hey, we'd like to bring you back in for an interview because you really wanted it. So I think that's something else that someone listening to this really needs to take away. I see over the years, you've collected a lot of certs, many more than I have. So I'll just say that. What have you found that, and maybe not necessarily talking about the exact certs you have, because I see several of them and I kind of understand why you've gotten them, but just from there's always that debate of like, should I get a degree? Should I get certification? Should I just get experience? Should I, what should I do? Should I network all the time? There's a lot of new people that are going to be listening to this podcast because I have a huge network of kind of people that want to get into the industry in some capacity. And many of them are probably doing something related to security in their jobs, but they really want to get like that first, cybersecurity analyst type of role or something similar in a SOC. Any thoughts from your end of like the value of a certification? And again, just keeping it kind of agnostic of like a certain vendor or a certain cert, but just overall, have you found that certifications have benefited you throughout your career?
Ken, definitely. I would definitely say being certified in several certifications has benefited me. What I'll also add to that is I value degrees. I value certifications. I value on-the-job experience. It's a trifecta. But what I found for me when I got into the industry, I've been in cybersecurity for 6 years now. Mm-hmm. What I found when I got into the industry, I'm 42 now, so if I do the math, I was 36. Certifications, what I'll say about certifications can get you on the ground running, get you in the industry quicker than a degree will. A degree takes a couple of years. We have fast track programs to a traditional program, 4 years. Certifications, you can study for a couple months, get the concepts, get the certification. you have to play the game. The algorithms, when recruiters are looking at resumes, those things count. They look for security plus. They, I won't go into vendor specific, but
you can. Well, you can jump in if you want to, George. I just didn't want to force the answer to the question as a certain vendor. But yeah, feel free to talk about any vendor, any cert. If you're talking about my courses, though, George, just don't curse me out. That's the only, that's the only thing I ask. But yeah, feel free to talk. And we're pretty open on this podcast. So anything you want to say?
Yeah, actually, and I want to add to that too, because you get a lot of negativity in the industry and people have their opinions about things. I respect everybody's opinions, but in this industry, if you really want to make it, you got to be strong-minded. When I started out in this industry, I started getting certifications. And, I worked with some coworkers that they had the work experience, didn't have the certifications, and they kind of looked down on the certifications. I kept a positive attitude. I knew that the certifications was needed. I didn't listen to the naysayers about certifications don't really mean that much. Certifications do mean that much, but I do have a saying about certifications. I have over 20 certifications, but what I'll say about my certifications, I have a saying called don't be paper. Don't just be the paper certification. Any certification that I study for, I lab out. I make sure I know it real world. I make sure I can do it when I go on the job. That's my saying, don't be paper. So that's what I'll say about that.
Nice. Yeah, that's actually a great quote. So I noticed one of your more recent certs that you've grabbed up is from e-learning. And I've actually had a lot of people that I know in the industry grabbing up things from e-learning, and specifically, like the pen tester stuff there. And again, we're not singling it out any vendor here, but just going off them compared to maybe some of your other certs, did you find that, I guess maybe I will do the vendor thing here. Have you found that a certain vendor's content is more beneficial than others? And you don't have to answer like a vendor name, but just in your experience, have you found that like one vendor kind of has a better approach than others when you're going through different certs, or is it kind of a mixture across the board?
Kind of a mixture. You get a lot of good concepts from, most certifications. What I'll say about e-learning security is a totally positive review. So I'll go ahead and go into that.
Sure.
The e-learning junior pen tester certification was really challenging. It was hands-on. If you're familiar with the OSCP, everybody likes the OSCP because it proves your hands-on skills. It's not about just answering questions or knowing concepts. It's about hacking the box, cracking the box, figuring out passwords, password hashes, knowing different pen testing methodologies, going through it real world. So eLearn Security has a very good model where they do a lab, and you go into the lab and you actually certify that way. You kind of crack boxes and figure out things on the network. And only by cracking those, compromising certain areas of the network can you get the answer to the question on the test. So I definitely respect eLearning Security for what they're doing in the industry. When I first started learning about them, I didn't know much about them, but gained a lot of respect for them when I actually did the certification. Some guys I look up to in the industry that's on, on red teams have those certifications. And so it definitely shows me that they're the real deal.
Nice. Now, do you recommend just going off to like the junior pen tester? Because I get a lot of questions like, hey, I'm brand new to cybersecurity and I want to, get a job as a pen tester. And I always tell people that you should go in the industry in some capacity first, get a little experience, and then it makes you a better pen tester long-term. But would you recommend that type of certification for someone that is not listening to, someone experienced in the industry? They're focused like, I'm going to be a pen tester right off the bat. Is that a type of cert that you would recommend for them compared to maybe some others out there in the industry?
What I'll say on that, I'll give it. I'm kind of riding the fence a little bit. I started as a generalist, and I definitely recommend starting like that because you get to see every part of security and put it all together. And then you can decide which area or which niche you want to go into. But if you're really set on going into pen testing, I do recommend the eLearn Security Junior Pen Testing Certification because it does give you that baseline level. It builds confidence when you actually, crack into boxes and figure out passwords and complete the test. It builds confidence. But what I'll say about pen testing and the red team side is it is a lot. It's a lot. When we talk about labbing and learning, it's a lot of learning. And if you take a break, you starting all over again. So you really got to be committed when you're on the red team side. But what I will advocate on the red team side, even if you don't think you're a true red team person, at least do an entry level, do a CEH, do a junior pen tester from eLearn Security. Do that base level, because on the blue team side, as far as being an analyst, as far as defending and knowing exploits and knowing what it looks like when you see it on your network, when it really counts, that's what makes red team training invaluable.
Absolutely. And so kind of you mentioned the blue team there, which I know you're looks like you're primarily working defense these days. Do you mind walking us through what you can walk us through on kind of your typical day or even your typical week might be better because every day is different, but it's kind of the standard stuff that somebody that's, maybe looking to work in a SOC center or something, like what types of things would they be encountering on sort of a day-to-day or even week-to-week basis?
Gotcha. From a day-to-day, like you said, every day looks different, but some things on the blue team side, phishing emails.
Cool. So you mentioned phishing emails, which we all, even somebody not working in cyber right now, they hear that all the time, maybe security awareness training or something like that. Anything in particular, like are these phishing emails that you see kind of on that, that week-to-week basis, are they pretty crafty, or are they just really like, hey, it's a Nigerian prince trying to, you've won the lottery or something? Is it that cheesy stuff that we see like in the movies, or is it more targeted stuff that you're seeing out there?
I think you're probably seeing across the board, or you're seeing the cheesy stuff. I don't think anybody would fall for that, but people are falling for it. So that's the unfortunate part. So we definitely have to take those seriously. And you see the crafty ones where it's like, that is pretty good.
Yeah.
So we investigate all phishing emails with the same amount of importance, and because something that simple can cause some major incidents and compromises on networks. Different things we also look at is endpoint security. You identify malware. You want to make sure that malware is contained, hopefully on one PC at a time. If it spreads, you want to kind of segment that, take it off the network, and work through that incident. Make sure you do documentation. Documentation is key, no matter what you're doing, what type of investigation you're doing. If you don't document, you can't really say it happened. And when you got that adrenaline running in the incident, you try to go back. It's kind of hard to remember all the details. You may not over document while you're in the midst of it, because at the same time you got to kind of be reactive and handle that incident, but still take notes here and there where you don't have to go back and get that information. Key things like timestamps, your IOCs, IP, URL, email address, things that you may need for that investigation.
So if I'm kind of working like in the SOC or anything, I'm assuming there's a lot of data coming in. Obviously, I know the answer to this question already, but I'm assuming there's a lot of data coming in, a lot of like logs and stuff like that. Like what kinds of tools, if I'm new to the industry, should I kind of go like practice on? Like let's say open source types of things, or even stuff with a free trial. Are there certain tools that you would recommend I go kind of learn first? At least right now, we all know that tools will change as technology evolves. But anything that you kind of recommend somebody new out there listening to this to go and just try to practice on?
Yes, what I would say on that is definitely learn about, it doesn't matter a specific name brand, but definitely learn about the SIM, the security incident and event management system. That's where all your logs are sent from other devices like firewalls, network devices, servers. They all send logs to your SIM where you can look on one single pane of glass and see your incidents. So I would definitely make sure you learn the SIM technology and learn the other network devices, like learn firewalls. Um, I don't want to go into a name brand, but definitely learn your basic firewall fundamentals, your basic network, uh, routers, switches. You definitely want servers. And also, if you have a home network, that's a great place to practice. I mean, understand what's going on, understand if you got a router at your house, what's a public IP, what's the public part, what's the private IP, how do you find your router IP, how do you lock your IP, your router down where you have a secure password where it's not being advertised. And if you really want to get really granular, where you kind of lock down the MAC addresses, only certain devices can connect to your network. So that's a simple way. If you don't have like actual work experience, you can start experimenting at home on your home network. And I will say, to keep yourself out of trouble if you start going into the hacking part. um, we don't condone hacking on your network or attacking your ISP. So you definitely want to use VMs to kind of contain. VMs is a great way to lab and common sense when we talk about that hacking side. So definitely want to put that public service announcement out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's always somebody that is going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So do you recommend, like, let's say I'm brand new and okay, I'm taking your advice, I'm going to practice, on everything. Should I be putting that on my resume as like, hey, these are the things I'm doing, like, like kind of outside learning type of things? Or since it's not, work related, but I'm still kind of learning and teaching myself. Is that something that you think, in your opinion, at least, would be valuable for an employer to see on a resume?
I would say so, especially getting started. If you have something that doesn't directly relate to it, but it kind of would help you, it would build your portfolio. Especially when you just start out, you really don't have much to put on your resume. So saying that you work with home labs, that'll let the employer know you're serious. You're actually trying to get the hands-on experience. You probably have the concepts because you have the lab at home. And as you get more experience, you'll kind of filter that down with some of the outside filler. But you definitely want to make sure it relates to the job you're going to. Like, for instance, I have over 20 certifications, but if you see on my LinkedIn profile, I probably have maybe around, I'm not looking at it right now, but anywhere from 5 to 8 listed. You you got to zero in on what job you're going to. You don't want to be all over the place, because when they look at your portfolio, it's like you would think, okay, he's well-rounded, but it kind of looks like you're all over the place. So you want to show that you have a niche and you're kind of focused in on one area. That's the advice I would give on that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's definitely good advice. Just kind of, narrowing the focus. Don't be a jack of all trades. Like, it's fine to, have all the knowledge, but don't, when you're trying to, apply for a certain job, you definitely have to customize things towards whatever role you're applying for. So that's definitely great advice. Any other advice you have at all for anyone, whether they're new or even experienced in the industry, before we wrap things up, George?
What I'll say real quick, and I'm starting to see that I stay on LinkedIn a lot because there's a lot of good people like yourself, us people in the industry sharing knowledge. What I'm starting to see a lot is mentor and be mentored. Since I've been in the industry, I've been grateful to be in the industry. I know how hard it can be to get in the industry. So I definitely try to mentor anytime I can, try to help someone that I see is struggling to get in the industry, and also seek out mentors, because you can't get better in this industry without seeking out people that's, more accomplished than you in your industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's advice that kind of goes across the board in any industry, any part of life. You definitely need to tap into those people more experienced. They can save you a lot of headaches. Took me a few years to learn that stuff. But, yeah, they can definitely save you a lot of headaches. Well, hey, George, I definitely appreciate you hopping on. You've given some really, really, really good advice. So hopefully people that are kind of new out there are listening to it and actually digesting it and taking it and using it. So yeah, I just want to thank you for hopping on and sharing your experience and your advice with everybody. We've chatted quite a bit, just keep doing what you're doing. And for anyone listening to this, feel free to connect with George. Send him a message. Don't send him malware. Just send him a message, and he'll be happy to answer your questions. So, all right, cool. Hey. Well, thanks, George. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Ken. I appreciate you having me on the show today.
Absolutely.